Hello, runners. This is Coach Bala here again, coming in. Another week has gone down. What that means is third meso, second week, you guys are done. 6 plus 2, 8 weeks of regular training plus 2 weeks of warm up. That means 10 weeks have completed. And you have one more week to go. And then we will all have rest week, which is a well-deserved break from this incredible journey you all are going through. Congratulations again, folks. Every week is an inspiring milestone for all of you, and you need to step back and really relish that week. And we are at that point right now. Congratulations. So for today, let me set up something for you. Just imagine a beautiful lake. Weather is perfect. 7 o'clock in the morning. You are in this cabin, enjoying the beautiful view, and you just get out of your room and you see this lake like a glass, not a single ripple, nothing. It just feels like glass. Doesn't it look beautiful? If you look at it, it's just amazing. And then somebody takes a huge pump and starts pumping water out of this lake. Let's see what happens. The level slowly starts coming down, and still it's beautiful glass of water. You don't see any difference. But then slowly, as you get to a certain level, something from inside props up. Maybe there is a stone that was protruding up, or a plant and a brush and a bush that was inside, that was underneath the water, that was below the surface of the water. But as the surface went down, it just broke through the surface, and the beauty of this glass got disturbed. So you went in and you said, no, I need the beautiful grass. So you went in and cut off the stone or cut off the plants or whatever. And again, you get a beautiful glassy surface and you're enjoying that view. But the pump water is still going down, down, down till the next thing comes up. Again, it gets broken up. Again, you do this. Everything becomes nice. And you keep going down and keep on happening. What it essentially is as the water level goes down, newer and newer issues that were underneath the water level just propped up for you to take care of it. And once you take care of it, again, it becomes normal. But as the level goes down, you should expect somewhere else, something else will prop up. And of course, over a period of, let's say you do this X number of times, maybe all the protrusions are out. So then even when the water is pumped down to a decent level, you still maintain the beautiful glass surface and nothing happens, and you feel till that level down, your lake is beautiful. Right from, let's say, level 0 to maybe level 10x below, you've taken care of all the protrusions that might have come up. So next person who is going to experience the same thing, or next day when you experience the same thing, you get up in the morning, the level is high, and somebody is pumping down, you will still enjoy the glassy surface, right? Can you imagine that scenario? Now, why am I saying this? I will come back to it. Let's just put it on one side of your brain, lock it up, forget about it. Let's come back to this a little later. But for today, what I want to talk about is I want to introduce to you the kinetic chain. The kinetic chain are the set of muscles in your body that needs to act in unison, take the load that it is supposed to take when you are running, and provide the kinetic energy that is needed for you to propel yourself forward. So the set of muscles, as you can imagine, they are not one or two muscles. There's a lot of muscles that needs to fall into place. The set of muscles that typically you activate and you rely on to execute your run are the kinetic chain muscles. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the kinetic chain muscle. And once you understand that, I also want to explain to you some of the common injuries that happens in these sort of kinetic chain. And I want you all to recognize it, because injury, pain is part and parcel of long distance running, as you all know. Of course, I'm not a doctor. So I'm not here to give you an anatomy class, nor do I claim to know everything. But I'm going to give you a coach's view of how to understand this, which is more than enough for what we are trying to do, which is trying to run and understand what is happening in our body. And hopefully when you understand that, you would take care of strength training in a little bit extra appreciation to what you're doing, so that you know what you're doing and where the help is going to happen. And as you all know, when you run, you don't need a coach to say this. You need muscles on your foot, on your leg, thighs, calf, thighs, knee is there in the middle. You need hip. Some of you may not. You need your core muscles, and you also need your shoulder and neck muscles for you to do a good run. That is the kinetic chain. So when you start from the bottom, of course, foot is a lot of muscle, bones and cartilages. But there is a muscle that connects to somewhere in the bottom of the foot and it goes up. It's called, let me just make sure that I tell you the correct name. It is called tibialis anterior and tibialis posterior. Tib anterior and tib posterior. These are two muscles, one on the front of the leg, one on the back of the leg, which controls your foot movement, like the dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, like the foot coming towards your sort of shin bone and foot going away from the shin bone, which is required as you look at it. When you land and when you step out, the legs are going like accelerator pedal, how you're moving your foot. And this movement of your foot is controlled by these two important muscles. So if these two muscles are weak, then your foot landing is not in the right alignment. Tib posterior and tib anterior. These are the two muscles that starts off your kinetic chain journey. Then as you move up, when you look at the calf muscle, which is a very important muscle, as you all know, there is these are large muscles. There is a gastroc muscle, which is on the front of the calf muscle. And then there is a soleus muscle, which is in the back inside of the calf muscle. In fact, the soleus muscle is such an important muscle. It is called as the second heart. It seems the soleus muscle is what sends the blood back to your heart. So if your soleus muscle is weak, then not much of blood circulation happens in your legs. Or in other words, you become weak. So you need to strengthen the soleus muscle. And there was an initial discussion in Runners High group where some runner had issues with calf muscles, and I proposed that it could be a soleus muscle problem. And the third one, of course, is the Achilles tendon, which we all know in watching movies and such, which is the tendon that's in the back of your foot connecting to your calf muscles. And boy, if your Achilles tendon gets injured, then your foot cannot work properly. So if you look at the muscles I just said, the posterior tibialis, anterior tibialis, gastroc, soleus, and Achilles, these are the sort of the muscle ligament tendon kind of a combo that's there in that area that is super important at the lower below the knee portion for you to strengthen and propel forward. Now, as you come up from the knee, of course, everyone knows has knees issues. That's a joint. It is connected by so many muscles that make sure that the knee is in the right sort of alignment. Those muscles above the knee, if they are not supporting the knee properly, then the knee is sort of like hanging in there and it's just flapping, and it causes all kinds of other issues that we all might be thinking it's a knee problem, but in reality it is weak muscles above the knee that is not able to hold the knee in position. So that's why if you think about the muscles behind above the knee, it's a thigh. So there is an upper thigh muscle, rectus femoris, I think. Then there is an inside muscle, call it as vastex medialis. It's inside the thigh muscle. And then there is something coming from the butt, tensor fasciata, and also the IT tract, which is the IT band that everyone says, the side of the thigh connecting to the side of your knee. So it's like IT tract, the upper thigh, the lower thigh. These are the big muscle groups that essentially is important to hold the knee in place, which is how I would understand that. And then, of course, when you come to the hips, hips is an exceedingly big and important joint with big muscles. And we need our hips to take part in our running. Of course, hips, think about it, just above the hips, the core muscles. Just behind the hips is your butt muscle. And then around the hips, there are some pretty important muscles that essentially makes the hip do flexion, moving the legs away from the vertical line. Then you have flexion, extension away, flexion coming towards, and abduction, which is going away, like in the transverse line. So this flexion, abduction, extension, all these three are muscles that are there, big muscles in the hip region that drives these three movements. And if these three movements, because our hip muscles, because we always sit, our hip muscles are not good, then one of these three will be affected, and as a result, your running inefficiency is very high, and more importantly, you get injured because these are not taking the load that it is supposed to take, or in other words, some other muscle below the hip is taking the load, unfortunately. This is where you need to understand. And then when we talk about the butt muscle, gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, and gluteus minimus, three main muscles. And I said about the tensor fasciae lata, TFL, that is around that area goes down. Now, these muscles, especially the gluteus medius, which is a little bit in the middle, this drives our running power. Especially gluteus medius drives our running power. So you need to have a very strong butt muscle at the gluteus medius level. And we have given specific workouts in our strength training for a gluteus medius strength. So if you think about it, from a gluteus medius onwards, strengthening wise, the hip muscles that needs to propel for the three types of motion that hip supports: flexion, extension, abduction, and then the upper thigh, lower thigh with an IT band on the side. Then you have in the calf muscle, the two main groups that are there in the calf muscle, which is the gastroc, the soleus, and then Achilles. And of course, on the foot, for you to do the flexion and extension, you have the tibialis muscles, anterior and posterior tibialis muscles. So all of these combinations, if it works in unison, then it is able to drive you forward with maximum efficiency. And of course, as I said, when you go up a little bit, of course, your core muscles, stomach muscles, which we know what that is. But on the back, there is a trap muscles. It's called trapezoid muscles. I think the lower, middle, and upper trap muscles, which is sort of supporting your neck and shoulder region. So you will see some runners developing neck pain when you're running, and people are like, "Ooh, neck pain because of running." And it is a common occurrence sometimes. It is because if your trap muscles are weak, then your neck is little forward like a runner. You know, if you could see me, those of you who are looking at it from a video, the runners will run like this, and the neck will be just bobbling, and the neck is forward because it's not being held properly when you're running. Ideally, your neck is like straight and held properly like a fixed sort of thing, so that it doesn't loose and bobble around when you're running. But if your trap muscles are loose and weak, you will see that the neck is just going all around like an elephant's sort of trunk and face, and that causes neck issue, severe issue. You can shut down your runs. So it's because of the trap muscles. So you need to have your strengthening from the traps down below. So as you can see, folks, these muscles, something very, I just named a few. You don't have to remember any of them. But the one message that I want to give you from here is there is a whole lot of muscles that is working in unison to power your run. So these muscles, if one or two is not working properly, then others have to take the load. And when it takes the load, it gets overloaded. And when it gets overloaded, then there is a pain or an injury that happens. That's the mechanics behind all of this. And so what are some of the common themes and common injuries that a runner faces? So let's go down from the big. I just got a small list for you. Let us go down from the start. So the first one is the Achilles pain, which happens on the back of your foot. When you have Achilles pain, when you're walking, especially when you're flexing and extending your foot, you will see that it is not easy to do that. It's a very tender, it's a very sensitive tendon, Achilles tendon. And if it gets injured, you can't push your way through. You have to wait for it, ice it, rest it, whatever you have to do just when it starts paining. Right now, there are three sort of very tender muscles that you can't mess around with. Achilles tendon, your groin muscle, and your shoulder. What is the name of that? I'm trying to remember. There's a shoulder muscle here, which also is, once if it gets injured, you got to wait for it to get fixed. Like, for instance, I have a groin pain right now. I'm not running for a week right now because I can easily run, but I don't want to, because my experience tells me that if I mess it up, then next 6 months I won't be able to run. So I'm just not running for a week. Stabilize it. It is frustrating, but still it's okay. Stabilize it. I'm checking every day, and then I will, I'm getting better by the day. Hopefully I'll be able to start running tomorrow. So these are the three sensitive muscles. You have to make sure you realize it. Rotator cuff. What I just remembered the name. On the shoulder, the rotator cuff muscle. So rotator cuff, groin, and your Achilles tendon are three sensitive, small muscle. You can't afford to get that injury there, because the recovery time is a very, very long process. And you can't do running at all. Maybe you can't do other activities as well. These are important muscles. So coming back, so that's the Achilles tendinopathy. That's one pain that's in the back of your leg. Remember that. The second one is plantar fasciitis. Plantar fasciitis happens at the bottom of your foot towards the beginning, towards the end. Basically, fascia is like, think of it as a plastic cover that is sort of keeping all the muscles and tendons and bones of your foot in one place, like a tight thing. But if this plastic cover is sort of torn or extended in some places, then it creates a localized pain. Most of the times, it's the bottom of your foot where you can't put load on the foot. So again, this is another thing where you can't just wing it. You can't just go through it and enjoy the pain and somehow make it happen. No, it'll go very serious, and after that you won't be able to walk only for some time. So that's the second one, plantar fasciitis at the bottom of your foot. Then comes the shin splints. Now, shin splints is because of the shin bone, the calf muscle bone. It's a long bone, and you think of it as the pole vault. You see in pole vault, when the runner runs, you see the long pole sort of bends and then propels the runner, the pole vaulter above and makes the person jump. It is a somewhat similar thing happens in your sort of longish shin bone. When you're running, there's a little sort of concave bend that happens in the bone, and as a result, this bend causes pain. Muscles and the tendon and the ligament that are connected to those bones get stretched, gets a little bit swelling, and it creates pain. Shin pain, it's painful. It's on both sides of the bone. You will feel that in the calf muscle, leg, just on the front of the calf muscle. So again, this is one thing where you have to ice it. You have to make sure it settles down, and then you reduce the stride length. So when you reduce the stride length, like manually think, like mentally think, I'll keep my foot closer to each other. By doing that, you are reducing that pole vault concave situation. That bending of that shin bone is reduced, and as a result, it gives you a lot more benefit. So that's the shin split. That's a very common thing. And then when you come to the knee, another common thing in the knee is this patellofemoral syndrome. What this is a knee has a kneecap, as you know. If let's say this is your knee and a kneecap is there, then between the kneecap and your knee, there is a cartilage. It just holds the knee cap in place. But if the kneecap is like moving around too much around the knee, then this cartilage gets extended, it gets a little swollen, and as a result, it creates localized pain on the front of your knee. Immediately people think, oh my God, my bone is all worn out and bone is touching each other. No, those are all big problems. This is a much smaller problem, but it still manifests itself as a knee pain when you climb up or when you climb down. The knee pain happens in the front of the knee, patellofemoral syndrome, PF. Again, rest, ice, figure out what needs to happen, kneecap, all of these things can be, especially kneecap, this bovine kneecap is extremely good because it doesn't allow the kneecap to just go around. As a result, it gives much better stability, and it can recover very quickly. So that's why don't wait for knee pain to become really bad. If there is an initial little bit of pain, maybe it's just the PF beginning, which is a normal thing for a runner. Contain it, put a kneecap, and you are in good shape. That's really what that is. Same thing on the IT band syndrome. Some people have IT band syndrome. I told you, right? IT band is this one that is coming from the hip on the side of your thigh and connects to the knee. That's the band. And if that band gets stretched, it pulls the knee in misaligned way. And because of this pull, some nerves get touched in the knee and you get a pain. That's the IT band syndrome. And of course, the biggest one is surgery and all that. But back to understanding where the pain is and what you need to do to strengthen. That's what we are talking here. So those are other issues. Then, of course, stress fracture is another thing that people experience in foot and ankle and that area. Neck, shoulder pain that I told you, that happens on a regular basis. And finally, numbness. Some runners have complained numbness on the foot. Now, the easy one is, when you tighten your shoes too tight and then go for a run, because blood flows a lot to the foot when you're running, the foot swells. But if it's already tight, then this tightness and the swelling causes blood flow to stop into the foot. And as a result, numbness happens. So maybe it's a simple thing of making sure that you don't tighten your lace too much. Okay, so that's one. But then beyond this, there could also be numbness that can happen. And that's a more serious issue, that blood is not flowing there, and of course you have to go to the doctor. Don't ignore it. Don't ignore and just run with a numb foot. That's not good. Blood is not flowing for maybe it could be for many other reasons. We don't know. As a coach, I myself don't know, but I can only tell you that this is not something that you will just ignore it. Numbness on the foot and blisters and few other things sort of covers, I would say, 80 to 90% of pain that a typical runner faces. Most of them are training effect, which is you're expected to have a little pain before the strength happens. But some of them could be serious, so you have to make sure that don't ignore it, but understand how these pain manifest itself. The plantar fasciitis at the bottom of the foot, Achilles tendon on the behind the foot, behind the foot, like right on the Achilles area. Shin split is on both sides of the main bone in calf. Then you have the IT band on the side of the knee, a PF, patellofemoral syndrome, on the front of the knee. Then you have, of course, hip. I didn't talk about, but hip pain could be any of those muscles, that big muscles that I was mentioning, glutes. And then you have stress fracture, neck pain because of trap, because of running. And then what else? Sprains, blisters, and just looking at my list if I missed out on anything. I think I kind of covered everything. So these are all the pain that will come. Now let me come back to what I told you to keep it on the left side of your brain, which is that imagine that lake analogy. Well, folks, that is really what is happening when you begin the training. So as you train, what really happens is your pain. This is when I talk about just a training effect pain, not the pain that is like I mentioned in my previous messages. If the pain is too much, then of course that's a medical issue. But this is just before the medical issue comes, just the training effect. What really happens is as you begin to train, the weakest link in this kinetic chain first gets overloaded. Because initially when you do it, not all your muscles are doing the job. Some are developed, some are not developed, some are like partially developed, so it takes a little load, some doesn't take any load, it's just sleeping, like a butt muscle, for instance. It's not even, when you start running, nobody's running with a butt muscle. My butt is sleeping because we are always sitting. So butt is not being used, and it's also not a voluntary muscle. That means you can't activate your muscle just like a biceps. The nerve muscle connection needs to be there for the butt to start, doing its job, and that's a training. So you have all these imbalances, and as a result, there is overloading on the muscles that is actually working. And the weakest portion of those muscles that are working will first show signs of pain. It is almost like as you're lowering the water level, as you're increasing your training, there is the first stone or the plant that comes out of the water level in the form of pain is that. And you say, okay, now you do something, you ice it, you strengthen it, and then that pain goes away. It's like cutting off that plant because that muscle got strengthened. Whatever you had to do, it just got strengthened. And then the next weakest link of the kinetic chain now forms the load-bearing unit, and then the pain started moving. So you will see that initially there was a pain in the foot, and then the pain went to the knee, and then the pain went to the thigh, and then it went to the hips. These are good signs. It just means that the least common denominator of your kinetic chain is slowly increasing. Thereby, the weakest link is all getting better and better. So the more strong ones have become weakest link, it takes the load, gets pain, gets the attention that the body automatically solves for. So which is a good thing. So I hope you understand that through that analogy. So now I am in a situation where I've been running for many years, so I don't get all those pains. There used to be a time when I could not run without a knee support. Now I don't need a knee support unless there is an issue. But sometimes I remember I had an ankle pain and I had an ankle support. Now I don't need an ankle support. And I'm sure right now I said the groin pain that I have, there's no support such, but I'm waiting. Maybe it was something that I pulled a little bit more. It's okay, but the point is I make sure that I listen to I listen and body is communicating with me, and I see whether it is something that's manageable, do the support that is needed, do the icing, have the protein, do everything that you can do when the body is mending itself. If you have understood the whole construct of the kinetic chain, that I hope you all got a sense of it. Okay, so that's the message for this week. Hope this makes sense to all of you. Congratulations again. Continue the training, and I'll see you next time.